Hey guys, Hobo Yeti here. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit today about being older, maybe over 55, and having health issues and managing those. The thing is the older you get, you know, it's just really hard to take care of yourself. Like I've noticed that as I've gotten older, I've wanted to move further and further away from the city and all that stuff. I have a buddy who's almost, pushing 70 and living out in the woods, and and that works to an extent, but there's a lot of maintenance for him to be able to do that, right? There's going, he's got a creek a little bit away, so he goes down to the creek and grabs a couple of gallons of water and hauls it back to his camp. And when it snows, he doesn't have a snow machine to push that stuff out of the way. And he's has a pretty good setup. Overall, he's got like what is it, SafeLink? I forget that internet service or whatever, and he's had a good deal, has a good tent set up. I mean, has to deal with coyotes and bears sometimes, lives a lot more of a lifestyle of a survivalist living on the land, or a bushcrafter, than just a regular homeless guy like I am. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but the main concern for him has been health. As you get older, yeah, you want more space. You want to, there's certain things you're doing differently than your average homeless person, but there's a lot more upkeep. He has an electric bike with backup batteries and a solar panel set up and a trailer. And the thing is like having I'll go into it here in a minute, but basically there are certain challenges you face when you live further out. And it's more hands-on, and the problem is that you start developing like hypertension or something like that, and you start having some problems. And living out there in the bush you're more likely to end up dead, or being stuck somewhere. Unable to really maybe move or something like that. Maybe you fall, and maybe you got your phone near you and you can call up search and rescue or whatever. Maybe not. Maybe you're waiting for the snow to thaw enough for people to get out to you, and the situation can turn deadly. And so I was doing some research, and like 20% of all homeless people are 55 or older. And there's, if you're elderly, and elderly is not really a term I would use for survivalists or people that are living out in the bush, but there's a much greater likelihood of, elderly or senior citizens, maybe 60, 65, people like that getting mugged or assaulted or robbed. And so there are, there are things you need to do differently. One of the things I think I've talked about in my previous videos is that when you get older, like, you need a good night's sleep. There's no way around that. And we're talking like 8 hours, at least, right? You need to sleep well. You don't need to have problems with your bed, your sleeping setup. You don't need any problems with that. You need to be able to go into your tent or whatever living situation you have, and have a good setup where you're not going to be cold, you're not going to be overheated, you're going to be where you have what you need. Sort of if homelessness was a packaged option, you would need like the platinum plan, the gold tiered plan, the bronze medal, or not the bronze medal, but you need high quality. You need the deluxe option, right? There are certain things that you need. You're going to need hot food. You're going to need to have the ability to get hot food. hot drinks, things like that. Things that play a real big and important and even key role in you being able to manage your health and well-being is getting a good night's sleep, and in any weather, and then also having good meals, good nutrition, stuff like that. That's really going to boost you up. I mean, obviously, you're probably going to be taking meds, and you need to be able to get into town to be able to get those things, vitamins, supplements, whatever you're doing. But honestly, it's really, your tent setup. You can't just throw a tent down. I guess you could, but the ideal situation to maintain a good health is to have a good setup in your tent. Like, I'm in a situation where, in the past, I've just kind of taken my memory foam mat and thrown it on the ground, prepare the area and stuff, and that's okay. But as I'm getting older, I'm finding that like I need a cot or something like that. Like, this isn't working. I spend an inordinate amount of time going from sitting down in an uncomfortable sitting situation to standing up, going all the way down, all the way up, and it's just, I've recently had some problems with my knee, and I don't know, when I was walking across the country in 2015, I kind of screwed it up, and then 2023, I was carrying a backpack, and I don't know, but and I guess last month I fell, and it wasn't like a traumatic fall or anything, but I hit my knee hard, or both knees, and I thought I was fine, but months later, I'm having problems with weakness in my knee, predominantly my right knee, and it's just, having that makes everything hard. I can't, I mean, it's not like I can just, get off the sofa and go lay down on the, everything's like, getting in and out of your camp, and that, so having, something that's maybe a higher temperature, or maybe you're not going all the way to the ground, also getting in and out of your camp spot. Where I fall is not walking down the road. Where I fall is when I get into this little wooded area, and I'm either having to go down the embankment, or I will be walking and I'll hit a root or something like that, and then I go down, and the thing is I'm carrying like, I guess, a 25, 30 pound pack with all my goodies in it, and then not only that, and I've got a cane, you know what I mean, and that helps definitely, but like I've got my backpack, and I'm carrying like a bag of groceries or something like that. It's never just, well, it's rarely just my backpack. So carrying water, it takes its toll, and you gotta be real careful. For those of you that are living out in the bush, and doing the survivalist thing, you're getting older, I would definitely suggest moving closer to town. It's just, it makes sense. You can't, I mean, I guess you could, but as you're, I guess over 65, you have to pee like, 5 or 10 times a night. They're, and I'm not saying, to go into one of those tiny homes or try to do one of those, or shelter or anything, but just being near amenities, being near the library, be able to do that, being able to get water without having to lug it up from the creek and stuff, it's just a lot easier on your body, and I think you'll have an easier time. It's harder to find a good camp spot that's kind of still out here a little bit, and that's a challenge. I found that if you find like a big city, and then find like one of those satellite towns that they have, and then maybe something out near that small town or whatever, and as long as you kind of maintain your appearance and everything like that. Anyway, just some options here. But let's see, mobility is more important than anything when you're getting older, when you're getting up in the years. You've got some health issues potentially. Everybody, I don't think I've met anybody over the age of 60, maybe even 55, that doesn't have any health issues that leaning to. I just found out that I've got hypertension when I was at the doctor last, and the thing is if I do more exercise, and I think a lot of us homeless folk, hobos or whatever out there, are self-diagnosing. We don't like hospitals. We don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to take your medication that's going to make me all lethargic and stuff. I want to fix the problem. I don't want to medicate it. And so, if I walk more, do more exercise, and eat better, then my hypertension is taken care of. And I don't really. And there are issues with like hypertension, like medication that causes issues with your body. I don't want to deal with that. And so I'm supposed to set up an appointment for that. To get that squared away, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to walk down the coast, you know what I mean? And if I fall or whatever, I'll just deal with it then. But I don't know. I would suggest, for mobility, so back on track, for mobility, go to, once you get your EBT, or maybe you have disability or something like that, or Social Security, take that paperwork and take it to like the local transit office. Here it's the Max office, Washington, like C-Tran or something. But basically, you're just going to, and you've got your HOP card, right, through that system. And you take it there, you take your stuff, and then they will give you a new card. And that new card, instead of charging $250 for a couple of hours, it's going to charge you half that. It's going to get you a reduced fare, and that's really important to have. The thing, a lot of people say, well, get a bicycle. Well, I've had a bicycle in the last couple of years. It didn't work out. What's that? I'm unsafe. I'm not very good on a bicycle. I always crash at some point. The thing is people are getting these, instead of getting a scooter or something, they're going to get an electric bike, maybe a trike or something. The problem with that, though, the trike is definitely the way to go, if you ask me, the electric trike, if you can find a way to recharge it. The problem with the trike, though, is that you can't take it on the bus. You can't take it on the Max trains, you can't do that. So it gives more stability, but it's going to have to be your total deal. You know what I mean? Some people are like, well, just get a bicycle, but I carry around a lot of stuff, so I would need like a bicycle or an electric bike with a trailer, and you can't really take those on the buses and things like that. So there's not any kind of cross utility with that. I carry around a cane. It's absolutely mandatory, especially lately. My knees have been really acting up, and like my knees are just weak all the time, and maybe it's a start of pain in my knees and arthritis. Maybe it's a start of that. I hope not. Last night I was just laying here. I was like, wow, they feel like somebody hit your funny bone, and it's just painful. And anyway, so having a cane is super important. Having a walker, that would work too. Wheelchair potentially. That's like I couldn't live where I am with a wheelchair. I wouldn't like that anyway. Maybe one of those walkers that they have, that would be okay, and carry a lot of stuff on it, and it acts as sort of a social disguise. And that's one of the things I'd like you to consider is having, when I'm around city areas and stuff like that, maybe I look more infirm. Maybe I'll take my cap off and I'll show my pure white hair, and that acts as sort of a social disguise. I got my cane, I'll be walking with that. maybe if you had like a walker or something like that, they would act like that. But there's also like when you start getting, like once I get out into the bush a little bit, or you know, I don't know, different places I'll go, I try to look a little bit more, like I try to make my steps surer if I can. I don't want to be seen as a victim. But like if somebody does see me as a victim, like seriously, self-defense, you know, disguise only goes so far. You're going to need some kind of weapon. And it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. You're going to be, somebody's going to accost you at some point, and you need to be prepared for that. I like having a stick. If I had my choice, I would have a thicker, like a fighting cane, or even just a thicker cane, something that's solid, like a shillelagh or something. You know, I would prefer something that I could keep people away from me. But think about getting some pepper spray. You know, I mean, sure, you can grab a knife. A knife is a good utility. I actually got a knife recently, like a Walmart fixed blade knife, just cheap, but it seems to do the trick, and it's always like at my hip. And that's like, if somebody like puts their arms on me or puts, you know, is causing me violent harm, then I can use that knife and defend myself. If I had a screwdriver I think would be better, just because, like, you know, just more familiar, in and out, you know. But pepper spray, using your cane, keeping people away. I don't know. Another thing you can do, and one of the things I think, like I'm not really a fighter. I mean, I'm kind of a bigger guy, so people don't really mess with me, and maybe that's a boon for me. But like, I don't really think about fighting. But when I do think about fighting, I want to do a hit and run. You know what I mean? Like if somebody attacks me, I want to get one good shot in on them, like with a knife, pepper spray. Maybe I'll take my cane and do a serious whack over, you know, to their head or whatever, and then I'm away. And you know what I mean? That's a hit and run kind of defense system, you know. But you could also buddy up with younger homeless people or young homeless person. I've seen that done. I call it a beard, you know, like when you have two lesbians and they hang out with a guy, it's like acting as camouflage for him, or used to be. I don't think anybody cares anymore, but we used to call that having a beard, right? And so I apply it to pretty much all other situations, you know. Having somebody that's, you know, if you can have somebody younger, maybe you buy them a case of beer every week or something like that, bribery kind of thing. But having somebody nearby that will act as your security force, sort of thing. When there's some other things, I want to kind of wrap this up, but basically, so there's, you know, your mobility, your deluxe option, your self-defense. Make sure that when you're, you know, as you're getting older, you keep apprised of all of your benefits. I know that this one guy I knew, he turned 62 and they turned off his EBT, his benefits. They were just like, you know, they didn't say anything to him. It was because he turned 62. He didn't have Social Security or anything. He turned 62 and he had to go to the office to find out. And I think something happens at the age of 62 where I guess they want you to go on Social Security, and they're going to tie up they're going to redo the benefits, the EBT. I know there's a whole thing where if you're getting disability or potentially Social Security, there's something that works in that where they all kind of go together, and they're going to want to, you know, the more benefits you get, the less EBT you get, for instance, which is messed up. But just, you know, after that, you know, just being aware that at the age of 62, you need to, like, interact with them better. Like, you can't just go on autopilot like you normally would. Just being aware of the changes with your benefits. I know that with some benefits out there, Social Security, like if you get paid from anybody, any kind of monetary gain goes into your account, that counts against your benefits. So if you receive $50 from somebody, and it goes into your account, like that doesn't it takes away from the amount that you get. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a balancing sort of situation, which is why a lot of people will insist on cash, for doing things. Like, no, don't put. And the thing is nobody does cash anymore, which is a problem. It used to be a bigger deal, but nowadays, like, people want to pay you with their Venmo or something like that, PayPal or Chime or something like that. And you're like, no, I can't do that. I need to get the manner and how I get paid needs to be anonymous and separate from something that's going to affect the benefits. So that's something to keep in mind. And then, I guess there's two more things I'd like to talk about. The first one is keeping yourself clean. It's harder as you get older to keep yourself clean. And there's sort of a mentality, like a social isolation that you go into when you're out either in the bush or whatever, and you're like, you start off, staying very, reasonably clean, and then as time goes on, though, you just get, what's the point? I'm not going to interact with anybody. But like, for instance, I had this buddy of mine, he was a little older, and he was saying that, it's important to him that he washes down his feet every night to get the salt off. Otherwise, his feet the next day would be all sore and, not feeling great. And I've discovered that that's not really an issue for me. But there are other things that, I like when I'm cleaner. I definitely have a better mindset. I have a different attitude going forward, and so being overall and having clean laundry, I think that's my thing. I'm gonna try to do laundry today, but like I've been here for a month and a half, and currently here, and you get to a point where you load up on underwear and socks and everything, but I'm in a situation where I don't really have a whole lot of stuff, and so and I'm gonna have to wear something while I'm doing laundry, so, but just to have clean underwear, clean socks, that's super important to me, and in maintaining my and there is like an isolation thing, you isolate yourself from others, physically you isolate, but also, you don't really, you kind of stop talking to people, and you try, the thing is there are people out there in your lives, and they'll reach out to you through Marco Polo or whatever, and, they have all these ideas on how to fix your homelessness, and none of them are relevant. They don't take everything into account, and so in a way, just them living in a home and you living in a tent isolates you, and that, maybe maybe it's I don't know. I've noticed that there have been people in my life that when I first became homeless, they're all about helping, but then as it goes on, because nothing really changes. I'm still having the same physical and psychological issues that I had back then, and it's gotten a little bit better, but like, nothing's changed. And so I don't really, but people, I guess they want to throw a couple of bucks your way, and then they're like, okay, you're not fixed. Okay, let's go on to the next deal type thing. But I don't know. But the isolation, I think being homeless makes you crazy. If you didn't start out that way, you start becoming feral and not for human company, human consumption, Anyway, I guess that's all I have. I just wanted to, there's definitely, as you get older, I think, like wintering in the cold just stops being an option. You're like, I'm not going to be able to handle winter. But it's because it's not just dealing with the cold, it's, heating up water bottles to keep in your tent. It's going down to the creek and carrying water and in the snow and having to deal with all that entails. And so moving closer to a town, I don't say city, I'd say like a satellite town that's smaller, that you can kind of still have your wooded area and stuff. I think that's the way to go. But at the same time, you've got to make choices for yourself. And I don't believe for me that, the problem for me about, being homeless and getting older is I can't do what I did. And, people are quick to point out, well, get into a shelter, get into one of those tiny homes and stuff. And the thing is, they have requirements for maintaining, keeping you there. Usually it's like 3 months, sometimes 5 months. But if you're still having problems, my problem would be, and a big problem is that I have some physical problems and psychological problems. And I need to figure out a way for me to get out of being homeless, but doing so in a sort of a permanent solution sort of way. And that's why I'm doing the YouTube, because maybe I can make enough that monthly, if something happened, like maybe I had, like a depression episode and stuff like that, and I've got a job and everything, I've got a house, and I missed 2 weeks of work. Guess what? Missed 2 weeks of work, man. You're not going to be able to catch up from that. And so then you're back in a tent, and in the short term, could I get out of the situation that I'm in? Maybe. I mean, the thing is putting in a lot of work, because I've talked about getting a job and getting situated and everything, and to being clean and all that, and then let's say it takes 6 months, maybe a year to get out of being homeless, just to fall back down to being homeless again, because my problems are still there. You know what I mean? So but if I had like maybe a backup income, like from YouTube or something like that, then maybe it's something that would be possible for me. But I think a lot of people that are older realize that there's, yes, could I fix myself for now? But I don't want to go back into the situation where if one thing goes wrong, that I'm falling down and I'm not going to be able to get back up, Anyway, yeah, guys, hope your road's a good one, and if you're homeless, hope it doesn't suck for you. Take care.